What's up, guys? Pop My Pigs for Life here, and today we're back with another episode of Conservation Carnival in Planet Zoo. So, as you guys may or may not have noticed, we did an absolute ton of work off camera, but before we take a look at that, let's just take a look at what we got done last episode. So, to start, we made, hopefully, our very last improvements to the exotic petting zoo by completely redoing the mixed South American enclosure to have a couple of different sections. We got a grassy field over here, we got some foliage groups, we got a very nice looking water area. Here's our white-faced Saki, right up here. We've got some climbing frames going over the river. We've got our very nice looking pond with tons of foliage, and we've got our little arboreal section for both of our monkeys, which looks like they are really making use out of these. Oh my gosh, they're so cute! On top of that, we also made some improvements to the Amerigo Vespucci Stadium by adding in a brand new enclosure for the Timberwolves, wherever they may be. Let's check. They might be inside. Oh, here's one of them. Here's our female. And we also made a brand new grizzly bear enclosure on the other side. Ooh, here's one. Very nice and chunky. Ooh, there's the baby. Aw, look how cute. And then we've got two enclosures for two brand new animals. We've got one enclosure for the ocelot. Oh, looks like they're taking a little snooze in their shelter. And we've also got an enclosure for the bush dogs right in here. Looks like they're running about. Okay, so now that we've got that little recap, let's address the obvious elephant in the room. I did an absolute ton of work off camera, so let's flashbang you guys for just a second. So where do I even begin? So to start, I rerouted the train track a little bit. So, as you can see, it goes right here, it goes around this area, and then right when you get to over here, this is all gonna be temporary, but as you can see, one thing we also did that's very blatantly obvious is that I did an absolute ton of terrain work. So, for one thing, I completely got rid of, this, area, so that way we could maybe expand the carnival that way. Over here, there was a ton of unused space that we weren't using for the carnival anymore. So I decided to make a little bit of a taller mountain. And same thing over here. There was a ton of unused space over here. So once again, decided to make it a lot more hilly over here. And yeah, no, overall, it looks so much better. And, of course, you know, also got all of the foliage. But also, one thing that I did over here is I added the humane circus area. So we've got not one, not two, but 3 circus tents over here. Got a ton of other circus decorations. So, if you guys didn't see last episode, basically, the plan is that one enclosure is going to be for Bengal tigers, one enclosure is going to be for West African lions, and the other enclosure is going to be for a mix of African elephants and Hamadryas baboons. So now, I did test it out, and unfortunately, the adult African elephants cannot fit in here. So because of that, we're going to have to add a little bit of a hard shelter for them. So yeah, but that is all going to be saved for the very last episode of Conservation Carnival, which, believe it or not, is only a few episodes away. Of course, I also moved all of the staff buildings over here. So yeah, all in all, this whole area just looks so much better. So now that leads us to today's episode. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a little bit of an African section, and we're going to be working on that over the next 2 episodes. So that's going to be over in this general area. So essentially what it's going to be is we are going to make another little area with like some tents and stuff that guests can be over by. So first and foremost, this episode we do need to plan all that out. What we're also going to do is we are going to work on 3 habitats today. One is going to be for the Fossas, which I have this from their old enclosure, so we can sort of just, copy paste it. Then one enclosure is going to be a walkthrough enclosure for all species of lemurs. And then the other one is going to be another walkthrough enclosure for the meerkats, the aardvarks. We are going to add in Kirk's-dik-dik, and we are also going to add in African spurred tortoises. So that path is going to lead all the way over here. Like I said, I do need to plan all that out. So that's what we're going to do first and foremost. One thing that I might do is over here, I might add in the larger animal pastures. So one is going to be for hippos, one is going to be for southern white rhinos, nyals, springbok, Thompson's gazelles, and common warthogs. The other one is going to be for reticulated giraffes, common ostriches, smaller wild ass, addax, and dromedary camels. So there's going to be 3 enclosures over here, and we're going to have a little bit of a monorail going through it. So that's pretty much the plan for what we are going to do. I definitely want to use some of these tents that we've got over here. I'll probably use these as like different shop counters. So I think that what I might do is we're going to split today's time-lapse into 2 parts. So the first part is going to be all the planning, and that is solely going to be where all the enclosures are going to go, where the path's going to go, all that jazz, and then we're going to stop, and I'm going to just explain exactly what we're going to be doing, and then from there we're going to get in the animals that we are going to add in this episode. So yeah, enough talking. Let's get right to planning. Okay guys, so obviously the first thing that we have to do in today's time-lapse is of course map out where the path is going to go and where the enclosures are going to be. So for these 3 enclosures, I really want to stick with them being a little bit on the smaller end, since these are some pretty small animals we're talking about. I did end up making it too small at first because I had to fit in all of the foliage and the habitat items that we had previously for the Fossas. And one thing that we also end up doing in this time-lapse is we end up pretty much just adding in all of the shops, all of the other guest amenities, as I'm just gonna call them, and in particular right here we are adding in these 2 smaller circus tents that I've had lying around for the longest time. So these 2 circus tents in particular we are going to be using as souvenir shops. One I believe is a Just a Memento, and the other one is a Hats Fantastic. And then one thing that we're also going to be doing is we're going to be using a lot of the tents that I got from the scenario map from this time the Zookeeper animal pack. So the beginning of today's time-lapse started out a little bit on the slower end. Yeah, I pretty much needed to figure out exactly what I wanted this place to look like. But then we start to pick up the pace just a little bit, as you can see with adding in these tents. For the Just a Memento and Hats Fantastic, I decided to use some of these shelves that are typically for the modular gift shops. However, the tents felt very empty, and so I just decided to add in some of these to fill up the otherwise empty space that we have in those circus tents. So now, as you can see, we are placing down what is going to be the Spotted Hyena enclosure. Again, I just decided to use one of the prefabricated habitats that we have in the game. Right now, we are going back to working a little bit on the path for the third sort of guest area. Eventually, we're going to go back and put in a bunch of tents, and here I decided that for the path going around the Spotted Hyena habitat, we're going to stick to some clean cut square edges, and you'll see a little bit later that we will end up adjusting the habitat to fit those clean square edges. So now you can see that we are adding in the monorail station. So originally my plan was that this was going to go through each of the 3 African savanna habitats. As you can see, we'll also be going through the elephant and Hamadryas baboon habitat. However, one thing that I also decided to implement with the monorail station is I decided that not only would this be like a little ride to see the animals, but this will also be a little bit of a means of transportation from one side of the carnival to the other. So now you can see that we do still have 4 of those smaller circus tents remaining, and I did still want to use them around the carnival section. So because of that, what I decided to do is I decided to close up that little opening that they had, and I just decided to place them around as a means of decoration. Maybe the staff would have some supplies in there. And one thing that you guys might also be able to notice is that I downloaded a couple of blueprints from the Steam Workshop, and these blueprints just fit absolutely perfectly into the carnival aesthetic. We've got a couple of carnival games that I decided to disperse around the area, and a little bit later you will be able to see that I also downloaded this giant Ferris wheel that we were able to put right in this new section of the carnival that we just built right by the Fossa enclosure and right by the exotic petting zoo, as I like to call it. So now, once we rearrange each of the blueprints in a way that looks best, then we are going to move on to building the last 3 enclosures for the African savanna animals. And as we're doing that, I just want to give a quick thank you to everyone who has commented and subscribed over the past couple weeks. All of the support that you guys have been showing on these last few videos really means so much to me. And I know I say this every video, but the simple act of sitting down and watching this video all the way through is showing me a tremendous amount of support in and of itself. And I cannot even begin to thank you guys enough for all the support that you have been showing me along the way. So really, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for watching today's video. So once we finish filling in some of the empty space with foliage, now we're going to move ahead and add in a couple of staff facilities. I did also decide to add in a small toilet block because I feel like there really aren't too many toilet facilities in this area of the carnival, and I just felt like that little area that we've got going on over here with the vet facility and the animal trade center is the perfect area to add in a small toilet block. So once we added in all of the staff buildings, I will admit I did get a little bit carried away with the building, and I decided to work a little bit on the humane circus area. So as you can see, we're using some of the market stalls that we have from, I believe, the Europe pack that we used at the very beginning of the carnival grounds. As soon as I planned out the basic overall shape of the humane circus, I knew that those market stalls would be absolutely perfect. They could fit right in the middle of the guest plaza that we have right in front of the circus tents. And yeah, I was originally going to do that on the very last episode when we actually work on the humane circus area. However, I was clearly in the building zone, so I just decided to get it all done today. However, that does mean that the final 2 episodes will be a lot more habitat focused. So now you could see that we are just fixing up the train track going around the carnival. We are adding back the sort of hilly cliff terrain that we've got surrounding the entirety of Conservation Carnival. And yeah, with that being said, that pretty much wraps up today's time lapse. Okay guys, so as you can see, we made an absolute ton of progress on the carnival area as a whole. For one thing, we added in a ton more tents for all the guests. We added one here, we have a smaller one over here, we have some here, and we also added this entire new area. We've got this nice looking Ferris wheel and these carnival games that I got from the Steam Workshop. Actually, what I think I might do is I might move this one. I don't know. Ooh. I think right there's a good spot. So yeah, all in all, this area looks very well put together. We've got these tents that are, you know, just supposed to be decoration. We've got monorail station right here. Goes all throughout these 3 exhibits over here. Goes through the elephant and Hamadryas baboon enclosure, or what's going to be the elephant and Hamadryas baboon enclosure. And it ends up right over here. On top of that, we've also got this enclosure for the spotted hyenas. And I also did a little bit of work on the carnival area. So I was going to do this in the final video, but I decided that we would just do it now since we were in the building zone. So now what I think I'm going to do for the last part of this episode is I think I'm going to deviate from the plan just a little bit. So obviously this video was all about building the carnival, and there was a lot of stuff that I was going to do in the next 2 episodes that I got done today. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to only add 2 animals today, and then next episode we will add in the rest of the animals in the Africa section, and then of course the final episode of Conservation Carnival will be the Humane Circus. So what we're going to do today is we're going to add in the Spotted Hyena and the Fossa. So what I think I'll do is I'll probably add the Fossa first, and then I'll make a couple of tiny adjustments to the Spotted Hyena enclosure, and we will add in the Spotted Hyenas. Obviously, there really isn't much we need to do for the Fossa enclosure. Obviously, one thing I do have to do is add in some of that, as well as some of this, and we'll also do a little bit of this. Perfect. So that way guests can be able to see the Fossas. So now I think we should actually get the Fossas. And then meanwhile, as the Fossas are being delivered to their enclosure, let's adjust the dimensions of the Spotted Hyena enclosure just a tiny bit. Perfect, and the Fossas have arrived. So, let's see. So, really the only thing we have to do in this enclosure is add in all of the terrain paints, and then give them a hard shelter, and we'll be good. So, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Alrighty, so now the habitat should be perfect in terms of their requirements. However, one thing I do want to do is I want to add in a tiny little bit of soil here. There, just like that. Now I say that looks perfect. Okay, so now let's get back to working on the Spotted Hyena habitat. And one thing that's actually really cool, I'm going to pause that for now, is that Fossas and hyenas are actually really, really closely related. So if we look at a phylogenetic tree of the clade Carnivora, which they're both part of, they actually share a very recent common ancestor. So, for instance, mongoose meerkats are the closest relatives, but the second closest relatives to the Fossas is actually hyenas. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I forget if we did already have a habitat for the Spotted Hyenas, or if this is the first time we are getting them into Conservation Carnival. So I think that looks good. And yeah, they seem to really enjoy it, actually. Alrighty, so I'd say that even though we didn't add too many animals in this episode, I feel like we got a lot done. I mean, for one thing, we completely expanded the carnival over here. We added a ton of other interesting stuff, like this carnival game over here, this very nice looking Ferris wheel, another carnival game, added in all these tents, and of course, we added in the monorail going throughout. We also planned out all of the exhibits, and we also Added even more stuff over here by the circus area. I didn't even mention all this stuff earlier. So yeah, again, did not get too many animals in. I mean, we did get spotted hyenas and fossas. But yeah, besides that, I feel like we got a lot done this episode. So that then leads us to our plans for next episode, which, believe it or not, is the second to last episode of Conservation Carnival. Well, building episode. We still have to do the tour. But essentially, we are going to work on the African section. So we are going to add lemurs right here. We're going to add in the meerkats, aardvarks, kirkstick, and African spurred tortoise right here. And then, of course, we are going to add in all of the other animals. So I think what's going to happen is, I think right here is going to be the southern white rhinos, the Nialas, Thompson's gazelles, springbok, and common warthogs. Right in here is going to be hippos. And then right in here is going to be for reticulated giraffes, Somali wild ass, common ostrich, addax, and dromedary camels. And, of course, I do also have to add in a little area for staff, which we will probably put in right over here. So yeah, with that being said, that is going to wrap up today's video. Really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see some more Planet Zoo and Jurassic World Evolution 3 content. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.